Welcome everyone to the 10th round of Blitz at the Superunited Championship happening in Zagreb, Croatia. On your screen is the one and only Magnus Carlsen taking on Anish Giri, two super GMs who have played innumerable games against each other. And today is the second day of Blitz. We have the guest of honor who's arrived here to make the first move on the board, and he brings out his knight to f3. And well, it's interesting. Maybe Magnus will play that move against Anish. Both the players in white shirts. And Magnus had an incredible day one of Blitz, scoring 7.5 out of 9. Anish will be looking to score some wins today to get back on track at the top. And look at Magnus, he's not taking back his knight. He's already saying to Anish that I am revealing my first move to you. Anish, oh, he took back the knight. Okay, not revealing then. Very interesting here to see how this game pans out. The players are ready and off we go. And Magnus does play his knight out to f3. Knight f6, pawn comes out to c4. We have pawn to c5, the symmetrical English. And Magnus thinking about what his next move is going to be. g3 is a very logical move, putting the bishop on the long diagonal. Anish plays his pawn to d5. Pawn takes pawn. Knight takes. And now the bishop comes to g2. Knight to c6. And he brings his knight back. Knight to c3. And Anish plays knight to c7. Now this line is super interesting because black makes like 1, 2 and 3 moves with the same knight, but has somehow secured the space in the center and now plays e5 to create a bind on the d4 square. It's called the Maroczy bind. a3 by Magnus. He wants to play b4, but rook b8 very quickly played by Anish. He's so well prepared here. And now b4 doesn't make that much sense because I can take and play bishop b4, and you don't have this knight e5 business because of check winning the bishop here, but knight goes back, takes, and the rook defends the bishop. Quite a deep point there. Rook b1 played, the bishop comes out to e7. And now will Magnus play his pawn to b4? I think it seems logical to push the pawn there to b4, as you have the rook now, and also there's pressure on e5. Pawn plays pawn to d3, and now black quickly castles. White is thinking about what his next idea should be. Magnus is a bit indecisive here. He could have played d4 on the previous move, but he went d3 and now plays bishop to e3. Slowly and steadily, this approach by white could mean that black is going to equalize and maybe even start pressing a bit. Like for example, is b6 a possibility now? To put the bishop on b7 could very well be. Or you could play your bishop out to e6. There's also this very nice idea with rook e8, bishop f8, and then jumping in with the knight to the center of the board. And Anish taking his time here, and rightly so. He already had built an advantage of 1 minute and 15 seconds on the clock, and I think it's the right time to sort of invest here in the opening so as to, assess this moves like a5. How good is this move a5? Because it completely clamps down the move b4. Taking his time here, Anish. And he does play it. Pawn to a5 played. The question is, should we go knight e4 to attack the c5 pawn? No, he goes knight to d2. The idea is to threaten, to pick up the knight on c6. He plays his bishop to d7 and now pawn to a4. So while Magnus is giving up the b4 square, he's also getting in the c4 square in return. Anish goes pawn to b6 and now knight c4 maybe somewhere. ideas of bishop takes knight, bishop takes bishop, and knight takes pawn could become possible. Of course, you don't have to worry about it too much because you're giving up your very strong bishop when you give up this bishop on g2. So let's see what Anish comes up with. He's thinking about these possibilities, trying to assess them. Now the time has been equalized. In fact, Magnus has more time than Anish on the clock. Maybe Anish is also thinking about knight e6 to d4 could be a good idea. He goes rook e8. And now think about it. If you play bishop c6, knight e5, bishop a8 is compensation. So he goes f4. Magnus opens up this diagonal here. But in doing so, he does weaken a lot of squares on the e file. Pawn takes pawn, bishop takes pawn, and now this is pinned here. So knight b5 is a possibility. He plays his knight to b4, and maybe just e3 is possible, queen d2. But clearly a very tempting move is to attack this knight on c7 with knight b5. And why is this not even possible? This looks like a good move. You can take bishop b5. Yeah, he goes knight b5. And now bishop b5, pawn takes b5. And maybe bishop g5. An excellent move. Trading away the important bishop here. He takes with the knight. Oh, instead of the bishop, he took with the knight. And Magnus chops off the rook. Pawn takes and bishop takes b5, and Anish is essentially saying that look, my knight on b4 is untouchable. I have a queenside majority. I have excellent position. What a beautiful exchange sacrifice by Anish Giri. Very deep, and very well assessed actually, I must say. To understand the intricacies of such a position and then go for it is truly world class. Magnus goes b3 and he's asking Anish, prove your compensation. Anish goes back bishop d7 and maybe preparing b5 in the right moment, but also just rerouting his bishop to e6. Could very well go to g4 as well. Queen comes up to d2. b5, not such a silly move because takes queen b6. The knight is almost trapped here. You have to go like bishop back, rook to a1, but he goes bishop e6, queen f4, and Anish avoids the queen trade. Rightly so. Queen d8. Black's pieces are all aligning very well, each of them doing a good job. Meanwhile, Magnus is surely struggling to find good moves. A big threat could very well be bishop g5, and maybe looking at the weakened square on e3. What is Magnus going to do about it? He goes h4. Again, not a very happy move to make because you do weaken the g3 pawn, but bishop d6 is not possible. The knight is controlling that square. He brings his knight back to d5. A great move by Anish. Imagine that you play your queen to f2. Now bishop f6 attacking here, coming to d4, maybe something like e3, but then b5. Already you can see like things are going super wrong, like knight e3, queen e3, bd4, you lose. So anyway, he takes the knight, bishop takes d5. He's given up his super important bishop. Now this bishop is like a laser beam. It's striking right in front and next of the white king. Definitely Magnus is unhappy with his position. He's the guy who loves to make these exchange sacrifices and all. Not to be on the receiving end. King goes to h2. And Anish now, I'm pretty sure he's tempted by b5. He plays it. He pushes the knight away. And if the knight goes back here, then bishop d6 is game over, because if queen f2, there's queen takes h4 and checkmate. So nothing less. It's a huge move, b5, to get the bishop to this square. And white would do well to play e4 to attack, counter attack the bishop. That's how important the next move is. Will Magnus be able to find the move e4? He has 1 minute 20 seconds. Anish has 2 minutes. And Magnus has to play it, or else he would be utterly lost. Like, just knight d2, bd6 is a bone crusher. With queen h4 coming up due to the pin on this diagonal. And Magnus finds it. e4 is on the board. And now bishop e6 important, because if you take here and take here, white is already better because f7 is hanging. So bishop e6 played, knight jumps to e5, further pressurizing the f7 point. But something like queen b6 or bishop f6 does feel like the right move. Anish Giri taking his time here. He has 1 minute extra on the clock. He has 1 minute 35 seconds. Magnus down to 38 seconds. Bishop f6 played. The knight goes to g4, and now very important to move the bishop away. Bishop c3, and then use your queenside pawns. The weakness on d3. This firm construction of the f7 pawn and bishop e6 gives black all the stability that one desires. But for now, Anish has a big decision to make. And with 1 minute on the clock, he could go wrong here. He could decide to take the knight on g4. Oh my god, his hand is moving in that direction. Leave it, Anish, leave it. And Anish takes it. Not a good idea. And now queen takes d3. Yes, he won that key pawn. And of course, his point is if you take rook f6, b1 is hanging. But here, after rook d1, rook f d1, or just queen f5, it would be a great position. He goes rook d1. Can you simply snatch the pawn here on b3? Oh, but then there's rook f6, yes? Rook f6, queen b2 and queen f6. That doesn't work. So queen c2 check, king h3 played by Magnus. And now is he going queen takes e4? Maybe to just trade. Well, Anish is not very sure about his position. When Magnus is down to 9 seconds, Anish is hesitating. He should play quickly here so as to put Magnus under maximum pressure. But as it turns out, after bishop d4, he's also down to 19 seconds. Queen d7, a great move. Queen takes b5 taken. He takes the pawn on e4. Rook e1 to attack the queen. And the queen goes back to a8 in order to stop rook e8. But rook e7 comes in with pressure here and here. And Anish takes his time. He wanted to play g6. He goes queen c8 check. Queen d7 takes, rook takes, and pawn to h5, limiting the king 3 pawns and a rook against 5 pawns and a bishop. Who's going to come out on top? f6 takes. He goes rook b8, attacking the pawn, rook f3, and he goes king h7. The rook moves up, king comes up, and now black has only 1 pawn for the missing exchange. But somehow this position is very good for black, especially because of the activity of the black pieces. Rook d7, bishop e5, rook f3, bishop d4, and maybe the players could repeat, but Anish says I want to fight on. He wants to keep fighting. King g2, he wins a pawn, and now rook a3 played, threatening rook a7 to attack here. c4, rook a7, f5, rook check, bishop f6, he goes rook c7, rook here, doubles, pawn push forward, king f1, he goes rook g2, takes the pawn with the rook, giving up the exchange, takes, and now you have to assess this position carefully, but already it is very much holdable for Magnus. He's just a pawn down, but now even not that. Takes king f2, g4, king f3, rook g1, king f2, rook goes back, king f3. And I don't know if the players will agree to a draw. No, Anish wants to try. Anish wants to try badly. He was winning almost throughout the game, but then in the end he made some errors and Magnus has managed to fight back. Rook a8, rook g6, check, and plays his rook to the side. And here it seems almost impossible to make progress. King h4, he goes king h6, king g3, he goes in. Ace, rook a6 played here by Magnus. Maybe f5 could be on his mind. He goes king g7. So f5 played, he takes king f4, and now Magnus wants to take the pawn, but after king g5 there's no way to stop both the pawns. A check to the king, and he takes the pawn, takes it, king takes h4, king g4, and taking here. A draw has been agreed between these two players. Anish Giri was in his element and was very close to winning, but in the end Magnus managed to dodge that bullet and extricate with half a point. So a big fight, and there you can see both players talking to each other and trying to exchange some ideas.